When you look at the most iconic logos in streetwear history, many of those logos were simple and iconic. So for example, we have Diamond Supply. And when you look at even their logo, it's basic Arial font with the diamond as their mascot. When you guys look at the Hundreds, the Atom Bomb was their mascot and their logo was simple. When you guys even look at Extra Large, the ape was their mascot and the Helvetica font. When you guys look at Bape, they had a college font with the ape as the mascot of their brand. So when you look at some of the most iconic brands out there from streetwear and just fashion in general, and even just in the world, it's like, it's not overcomplicated. It's very simple for somebody to digest and understand and overstand. You look at the Wu-Tang logo, Target, you look at Walmart, it's all very simplistic. Now, I'm not going to get into like color psychology and like purple and blue and red, and I'm not getting into all that. I'll get into that in another video, like color psychology about your brand and stuff. But my overall point is that you guys want to make something that's simple, that makes sense, and that's very cohesive with the message that you got going on. So for those out there that's struggling with their logo, you always have to remember that there's two ways that we can do this. The first way that we can create the logo for your brand is either you create the brand and then the logo, or you create the logo and then create the brand. But me personally, I'm a big believer, if you really have a vision out there and you trying to create a world that has like never existed and you already got this brand in your head, I think that you should make the brand first and then create the logo on whatever the name is to that brand that you have. But before I even get into the whole breakdown of me creating the logo for my brand, first let's get into what my brand is all about and what we stand on. First and foremost, before I even get into breaking down the logo and how I did it and created it, the iconic logo for my brand, first we need to get into like what Lord Knows is even about, so you guys can see this as like a real example that I actually use, and I'm not just like trying to teach it, I actually fucking did it. So Lord Knows basically is a streetwear brand that was founded in 2014 by who? Me. And, but it's just nothing but a representation and a reflection of my influence from the way that I was brought up to my perspectives and ideologies and opinions when it comes to religion, when it comes to the government, and just me and my friends' whole entire lifestyle growing up. Because there was a time in me where I had a saint life, and then there was a time where I had a sinner life. So if you guys look at my brand, it reflects the saint, the sinner, heaven, hell, and it's all cohesive, and it just makes sense to pop out a brand like the one that I got. The word Lord Knows basically means the Lord knows ... your purpose in life. And the word Lord is basically a metaphor for whatever you believe in. So there's some people out there that believe in God, or they believe in source, or they believe in this, or they believe in Prophet Muhammad, or whatever it may be. So it's like, it's not just like, this isn't some Christian brand or nothing like that. Obviously, if you guys go look at my page, it's far from a Christian brand, but the word Lord is whatever you believe in that's going to get you through life. Whatever that source is for you, for whatever you believe in, that's basically writing out your whole entire script. So when it just comes to my life, like I told you guys, I've had the life of a saint, and then I've had one also as a sinner. So my whole company's objective is to talk to those and reach out to those who feel misunderstood and that are misfits of society. And I feel like over the years, we've done a good job with that on the people that resonate and reflect with our brand's message. So now, since you guys have the full detail on what my brand is about, now we have to look in depth at the example of the clothing that I have. Now, I'm a big believer in making very simple clothes, but have very loud messages. Like I grew up on Fresh Jive and Fucked and all these different brands growing up as a kid, and everything was very simple, but with very meaningful messages. So when you guys look at my examples of the clothing, everything is very simple. Everything is very to the point. It's not a lot going on. So that's how I kind of wanted my logo to be. I wanted my logo to be a representation of that. So my first logo was just a basic, simple LXRDKNOWS with the $ at the end. If you guys look at that logo plus my clothing, even way back then when I first started, like everything was cohesive. So you guys always want to make sure that the logo that you're using is very cohesive to the brand that you have. Obviously, like the clothing and everything that you're putting out. So now the famous question, Chris, how did you come up with your logo for your brand? So all I did was I just looked at my top 3 favorite brands, which were Supreme, Fucked, and Palace Skateboards. And all I did with Fucked, Supreme, and Palace Skateboards is I literally put them all together. I found what their logo names were, and then I just matched it up with Lord knows to the fonts that they use. And then I sat back on my computer and I looked to see which one would make the most sense with my brand, which one reflects my brand the most. So at that time, I'm glad that I did it. The Palace one made the most sense. And all I did with the Palace one is that I just added a bunch of strokes onto it inside of Illustrator. And then I just shrunk it down a little bit, but it's the same font that Palace uses, which I think is like Helvetica Oblique Italic or some shit like that. But if you guys look at my font compared to Palace's font, like theirs is a little bit long or taller, or mine's is a little bit more condensed and shorter, but I added some strokes to it so I can make it more chunkier and bolder. So then as I made this logo and I'm looking at it on this big ass computer and I'm just like, Lord knows, is this the logo that's going to fit? I was convinced in it. Then I showed my friends and family and they were convinced as well. But then the last thing that I did, and the most important thing that I did, and what every single one of you boys need to be doing too, is give it to the community that you are serving. So what I did was back then, and this is when I only had like 3, 4, 5,000 followers or some shit, like super small back then. And what I did was I just gave it to them and I was just all like, official logo, question mark, with the voting system on the story. Man, I woke up the next day, that shit was like 99% yes, 1% no. And then once I started branding it on hats and cut and sew in the future and different headbands and all this other stuff, I'm looking at it like, this is the logo that fits my brand name and my brand aesthetic, and it's all cohesive into one thing. So I know a lot of you guys right now are struggling with your brand. Y'all trying to figure out the brand name, your brand identity, production, marketing, sales, design. I've been there. I know exactly what every single one of you guys are going through. But rather than crying and sitting around all like, oh, who's going to come save me? I want you guys to go do one thing, and that is to go click the link below. I made a free clothing brand course for every single person out there that is struggling, or if you got some motion and you just lack an understanding, to help you go from $100 to $1,000 a day with your clothing brand. Yes, a day. I'm here to help every single one of you guys. You know, I'm the person that went through all the peaks and valleys. I don't want anybody to go through all that pain, hardship, and suffering that I had to go through, because it was all fuckery. But with that being said, always remember to embrace the craft and divorce from the result. Mwah.